So in this lecture, let's start building the detail view for our web app. So in order to build a new view, or in order to build a completely new functionality, what you do is that you create a model, then you create a view, and then you create a template for that particular thing. So right now we don't need to create a model because obviously we have the current model, which is the products, and we only have to create the view out of the same model, which is products. So the only thing which we need to do now is we need to create a new view. So let's go to the views.py file and create a view and call it as the detail view. So I'll type in def detail in here, and this view is going to accept the request as usual. And in here, this is also going to accept the ID. Now, why exactly do we need to pass an ID over here? Because we want to design our detail view in a way that whenever we click on one of these items in here, we should actually get the detail of only that particular item. That means in order to get the detail of a particular item, we would need its ID. So in order to get that ID, we get that ID from here. Okay, so once we have that ID, we can now make use of this ID to actually find out that particular item. So how exactly are we going to find out that item? We are going to do that by using the products model. So we can query the database using the Django ORM, and we will simply go ahead and type in product underscore object. So this time we want a single object instead of objects, hence I have named this thing as object, and we are going to get that from the model, which is products dot objects. And now instead of typing dot all, we actually want a single item in here. So instead I'll type in get, and here we only want to get the product whose ID is going to be equal to this ID right here. So I'll type in ID equals ID. That means we want a product whose ID is equal to this ID right over here, which we have passed in here. So now once we have that particular product, we can simply return that product and render that up with a template, as simple as that. So I'll type in return render. First of all, pass in the request, then you pass in the template over here. So right now we don't have any sort of template in here. So I'll simply go ahead and type in shop slash, and let's name this template as detail.html. And now simply pass in the context, which is product object. So I'll type in product underscore object as product object. Okay, so once we do that, now our next job is to actually set up this template, which is detail.html. So now let's go to the templates folder, and in here go to the shop and create a new file, and I'll name it as detail.html. So once we have this template, let's go ahead and write in a bunch of code in here. So first of all, I'll go ahead and include the as usual code, which is the HTML tag, the head tag, and the body tag. Then make sure that you have the bootstrap link over here so that your template actually adopts the bootstrap styling. So in actual projects, you are going to create a single static directory which is going to hold all of your static files, including the bootstrap link, but we are going to make those changes later. So for now, you can simply go ahead and copy this bootstrap link from here and simply paste that up over here in the head tag. So this is not actually a good practice to repeat a bunch of code multiple times because that causes redundancy, which is not good. So we are going to actually tune up our project once it's completed, and in there we will actually only have a single bootstrap link throughout the entire project. So now once we have this bootstrap link, we can now go ahead and start creating the products detail view in here. So for the products detail view, what we wish to do is that if you go to the browser here, for the detail view, what we want to do is that we want to have the product image on the left side, and right on the right side on the top we want to display the product's title, then we want to display its actual price, then we want to display its discounted price, then we want to display the product description, and in here we want to have some buttons like, let's say, add to cart, and here we want to have some other sort of button like buy now. So let's go ahead and design that. So let's go back over here to our HTML code, and in here, as usual with Bootstrap, we first go ahead and create a container. So I'll type in div class container, and then I'll go ahead and create a row. So I'll type in div class equals row, and then inside this row we will create a column. So I'll again type in div class equals column. So this is actually going to span 6 columns. So I'll type in col-md-6, because obviously out of the 12 columns, in the first 6 columns we only want to display the product's image. So now let's go ahead and get access to the product's image in here. So again, in this particular column, I'm actually going to create a row one more time. So I'll type in div, that's going to have a class of row, and in there I'm going to have the column. So I'll again type in div class, and in here I can see something like col-md-12, which means that this image spans all the 12 columns inside this row, which spans 6 columns. So in here now, let's go ahead and include an image. So I'll use the image tag, and the source for this image is going to be from the product object right here. So I can simply use the template syntax in here, and I can say product_object, and in the product object we actually have the image URL stored in the image field. So I'll type an image right here. So I hope this makes sense to you. And in here you can also go ahead and have the style for this particular image. So you can set the height and width for this, but for now I'm just going to leave it empty. And let's get rid of this alt tag because we don't need it right now. So once we go ahead and do that, we are pretty much good to go. So now let's also go ahead and create the right hand side part, which is to display the product title, the image, price, and everything like that. So here we have this particular row, and in the same row we are going to go in the next 6 columns which we have. So we have utilized the first 6 one right over here. Now let's do the same thing for the next 6 as well. So for that, let's go over here and let's type in div. This is going to be class col-md-6, and in there let's go ahead and create a row. So div class is going to be row, and then over here let's go ahead and again make a column which spans all the 12 columns as we have done here. So I'll again type in div class equals col-md-12, and in here I'll first go ahead and mention the product title. So in here I can type in product_object dot title. So this is the same thing which we have done right here. Just as we have accessed the product image, here we have accessed the product title. And now after accessing the product title, I can now go ahead and access the product's price over here. So for that very purpose, I can simply go ahead and recreate this particular row down right here. So I can go below right here, paste this thing over here, and instead of the title I can say price, and this row actually ends here, and after that I can create another row and I can display the discounted price here. So I will again go ahead and paste the same thing in here, and I'll say something like product object, and in order to access the discounted price, I'll use the discount price over here. So I'll go ahead, paste discount price in here. So once we go ahead and do that, we are pretty much good to go. Now the only thing which remains is that we want to display the description. So let's go ahead, copy this once again, paste it up over here, and now instead of the price I can simply go ahead and access the description. So I'll say description over here, and once we are done with that, we are good to go. So now once we have this particular template design, we can actually go ahead and add in a bunch of more elements in here. But even before that, let's go ahead and see how this template exactly looks like. So in order to go ahead and make this template functional, we need to create the URL patterns for this particular view. So we are going to do that in the next lecture. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.